Welcome back to Let's Start a Band. Today we have the incredibly talented Jamie Sidwell. Went to Berklee College of Music, graduated, plays multiple instruments. His biggest song has 10K streams. It's a banger. Gigi Perez actually dropped out of Berklee, posted one TikTok and somehow has 1 billion streams. It's so unfair. The industry is broken. We've been lied to, but today we're going to figure out what it's like for Jamie. Jamie, welcome to the show. North London, jazzy, soulful, a Berklee graduate. You've played O2 Academy Islington, one of my favorite venues. You've released 2 albums. It's absolutely incredible. But 90% of people watching this will all feel very new to them. So I want to understand from you, how does it feel to be an independent artist in London?
It was great. Thank you for having me, first of all. Being an independent artist in London is you're not alone, that's for sure. There's a lot of people trying to get their art out, especially indie artists, indie singer-songwriters. I've the music scene is great. There's loads of small venues to play at. There's a high demand for music to be listened to in live settings, and people are looking to discover new music. It's been quite a change moving back from the States because it's now a very different type of audience, I would say. But I think finding the studios that you want to work in regularly, the rehearsal spaces, and finding the band members that you play with has been really enjoyable so far. So I can't complain.
What's the difference between the States and here? What's the biggest thing that you notice as an artist?
As an artist, I would say it's the vulnerability aspect of, I think in the UK, we are very good at sort of, and it stems from just our personalities of self-deprecating humor and whatnot. And I think that that divulges into audiences at UK gigs compared to American gigs, if that makes sense. What I mean is, I think it's slightly more raw, authentic, and it has to be good to get a good reception. So I feel like there's actually a higher bar to aim for here in order to really get noticed.
Hmm. It's really interesting to hear that. Really interesting. And you're so experienced in it. It's yeah, a great point there. I'm a massive believer in the music industry doesn't reward the best musicians anymore. It rewards the ones that are most visible. Does that annoy you about being an artist? Do you agree with that statement? What's your thoughts?
I would, well, I'd say that's kind of how it's always been. I mean, my my mum is actually involved in the music industry more on the business side of things, and it's called the music business for a reason, and that reason is that you don't have to necessarily be the best to be make the most money or be considered the most successful, depending on what that idea of success is to a person. But it's it's like, for example, if you were to try and get a plumber to fix something in the toilet, you wouldn't hire someone who hasn't got much experience. But with music, people really give people a chance as long as they feel like they're being their authentic self, or they feel they they just have to feel some sort of connection. I don't, thinking back to your question, I don't mind it, unless it's to a point where that person's mentality is all in the wrong place. So where it's they are going for the numbers and strictly that. They are going for, oh, if a group of people like it, even if I don't like it, I'm going to release it. Or, oh well, this let's just putting minimal effort in just to make the listeners and the fans happy. Whereas I feel like it should be something where you're trying to make yourself proud as much as possible, and definitely in terms of new direction of a live gig, or trying to make your music as musically sophisticated but also connecting with an audience. And I feel that sometimes people can be a bit lazy with that and just aim for visibility in whatever way is going to get them the most clicks or whatnot.
Jamie, I completely agree. And I feel like the only time it really annoys me is when I see an artist, go viral over one chorus they've written. They get put on these massive stages at Coachella and they choke up. And I just feel like who's around them supporting them? Because you need to learn your craft. You need to perform to people. There needs to be an element of building, I think, a little bit. We're going to jump into would you rather questions. Quick fire. Would you rather headline Glastonbury once or sell out 1,000 capacity rooms for life?
headline Glastonbury once, only because it's Glastonbury. Is if it was Coachella, I would say the 1,000 capacity, but Glastonbury's got such a raw feel about it. Sorry, I know it's quick fire.
10 million streams on one song or 100,000 streams on 100 songs?
10 million on one because it only takes one song for someone to feel like they've got a huge connection with you as an artist.
Love that answer. Be the best musician nobody knows or the worst musician everyone knows?
Best musician no one knows.
Love that. Tour with your hero, but play to their crowd every night, or headline your own tour to 200 people each night?
If I really like the music of that person that I'm touring with, then them playing to wider audiences, because I love being an instrumentalist as well. So,
Make £100,000 a year for music you don't care about, or £20,000 for music you love?
20,000 for music you love. There's no point otherwise, is there?
Correct answer. I love that. Absolutely fantastic. Would you rather only write in one genre forever or never release the same style twice?
I, I've been thinking. Oh, sorry, it's quick fire. I would say one genre forever because I think you can still try and get experimental within it.
Absolutely. I massively agree with that one. Um, would you rather be dropped by your label after one album or never get signed at all?
I don't really know the integrity of labels as of yet, so I'd be hesitant to say one sign with them. So I'll say no, never, not at all. I'd say.
That is a fantastic round you've just played there. I really agree. I love how authentic you are, Jamie, and just like, this is me, this is what I'm like. I do it for the love of the creativity. I think is absolutely fantastic. We're going to jump into some of the industry news. We call this band practice. So it's just been launched that TikTok have partnered with Apple Music. So let users play full songs inside the app. It's no more like 15-second clips. If you're an Apple Music subscriber, you can now listen to the entire track without leaving TikTok. This matters because TikTok is no longer just a discovery platform, it's becoming a streaming platform. So if you're an artist and you think, okay, I need to be posting 15-second clips that people want to hear the full song, you know, sometimes you have incomplete hooks there or teasers. Giving the whole song can potentially bring people in. And I think their plan really is TikTok is trying to kill Spotify in the next 5 years, but I think they're trying to take everyone at the moment, which is a bit of a mad one, to be honest. But there you go. We've got George Smith is headlining festival, which he's doing 6 this summer. It'll be the first time, which is absolutely fantastic. I think it's a new genre, and the fact it's a female headliner, I think, is phenomenal and really needed. This is controversial, Jamie, and I really want to get your take on this. Universal have signed an AI artist. Universal Music just signed an AI artist on a development deal. It's not a human, it's just AI. And it's because labels are hedging their bets on AI generated music and content. So what does that mean in the next 5 years for artists? That's quite a scary place for me. I feel like music is about connecting humans. What's your take on this?
Well, I get it and I don't. As in, as a musician, it's obviously mind blowing and mind boggling. And you're like, how could you do this and whatnot, blah blah. But to the general audience ear, and obviously I'm not everyone and not even majority, but I've know people who, even in my family, who will listen to a song that's they think is written by an artist or band. I could like play a prank on them, for example, and play that, and it actually be by an AI artist, sorry, and they will be completely convinced that it's not AI, or vice versa, the other way around. Given if you put an experiment in place and you don't tell them in advance, and so from Universal's perspective, where they are looking to make as much money as possible, if there's an AI band or artist who's releasing music and it's doing well, they're not going to be worried about the future of that, because if the general audience that is listening are already liking it, they're very likely to continue to like it until they find out it's AI. I do think that would be the deal breaker, at least in my opinion. I would hope that the majority of people, I know my friends and family, if they were to hear a song and even if they love it, but it's AI, they won't listen to it again. I would hope.
It's a scary place. Like, just a click of the button and it can interpret this, interpret that, and but music's a very personal thing, and I think especially in a live setting, the vibrations, connections it has. I don't know. I feel like you've got an amazing perspective on it, but a lot of artists are quite deeply concerned about it. But like you said, if I knew something was AI, it would put me off listening it again. I have to say.
Yeah, I think at least for me, I'm very much a believer that I actually wish I lived in my parents' era of being in my 20s in the 80s and that sort of thing, where everything was a lot more simple. You had to make your own entertainment. Music was a lot more rare, and you could then argue against it. Oh, but music's so accessible for anyone now, and it's like, well, but that would have been the challenge. That would have been the challenge to become a really good musician or a really good songwriter or whatever role it is you want to have in the music industry, to the point where word of mouth is going to take you with your work ethic into a place where you are able to be in a studio, put together, make songs with people, albums with people, release it, and then be in demand to play tours and sell copies of records and whatnot. And that, like, is honestly, it's so joyful for now because anyone can make music, but at the same time, it's just getting to a point where it's becoming more and more and more disposable. And even my ear, I feel like, is being, it's almost like tearing away at the quality of what's real and what's not. And that's quite, that part I find scary, for sure.
Absolutely. Jimmy, what are some things they don't teach you in music school? Obviously, you've played some brilliant venues, some brilliant shows. What's something they don't teach, which maybe you think that they should consider moving forward?
Well, I was very fortunate to go to a very good music industry institution with Berklee College of Music, and I don't think they gate kept anything, to be honest. I don't, since I left Berkeley, there's nothing that I've experienced that has shocked me,
Okay.
actually. I would say going from, but if I wasn't to go to there, and I would say it's down to the institution I went to, but I say if wasn't to go to there, I was just to leave school and go straight into music, I would know zilch about anything. Like, it's from, so as an artist, say you got your live gig, right? So it's knowing the equipment you need, the XLR cables, the quarter-inch cables, the stands, the sound check, and how that all works. And it's then about timings and how you do line checks as opposed to sound checks or whatnot. There's like tech stuff like that, and then there's also dealing with people, and there's a promoter, and there's a engineer who you're going to meet for the first time at the venue, and all this sort of thing. I would say I would say that they you almost have to learn by just doing. I mean, there's lots of things that from school people, but you don't get taught about the world in general. So I'm sure, like, it is one of those things you just have to put yourself out there, go through the experience, even if that takes a year or two or three,
Yeah, you've
and then know it for the rest of your life.
you've
So
got to learn your craft, haven't you? You can't match actually doing it. Touching on that from Berkeley, then, what was the best piece of advice you've ever received?
from Berkeley, uh, I would say it's because there's a big thing of imposter syndrome at Berkeley because there's so many great young musicians. I would say the one thing I would take, and I don't think anyone said this word for word, but it was a general message, was that you should work on your craft so much to a point where that imposter syndrome, any form of it, is non-existent throughout, and it's making sure you're putting in the hours and the time and the work and the care, so much of it, that you look around you and you can say there's no one else doing it as much as me, or they're only on par with me. And
It's like looking in the mirror and going, "It's undeniable proof. The hours are there, the time's been done." That's amazing advice to hear from eyes. I think it's a really healthy thing to feel like you're in rooms you don't deserve to be in. I think that's a good place as an IS. But like you said, you need to be your authentic self. You can't be, sucking up to people or wanting this opportunity or going with external motive. You should be able to feel very comfortable because you've put the hours in. Is that kind of where you're coming from?
yeah, absolutely. I mean, I saw a clip the other day. It circles back every now and then, but it's Prince being interviewed about playing the guitar, and because it came up because there was the CEO of Suno or whatnot, is a music AI company, who was saying learning an instrument isn't enjoyable anymore. And it obviously in the edit goes to this Prince clip of talking about how he learnt the guitar, and it takes time, it's frustrating, and now more than ever, everyone's in a rush to make it to the top or wherever they want to end up. Everyone's in a rush. I think social media is a big part in that, and it's realizing that it's going to take a long time, but you have to stick with it. That's why you do music. You don't do music for the sake of, oh, I'm trying to get this outcome or this outcome. It's just you're wanting to learn this bit of craft, and every day there's something new that you hear, or you're tinkling the piano and you come up with something and you're like, oh, and it makes you want to indulge in that even further, and it just keeps you going day to day.
Jamie, some of the advice you're coming out of today is just sensational coming out at such a young IS. I really, really resonate with it. What's one artist you collaborate with tomorrow if you had the chance?
Are they listening? um, no, there's a few, but I would say I think I could do something really nice with Olivia Dean.
I could see that.
And I think in terms of an arrangement of an existing song, Jacob Collier, I think I could try and bring a Berklee spin on that, which I think obviously he's a musical genius, but I think I could be on par for at least some of it when it comes to knowing what we're talking about. And then aside from those two, maybe, I don't know. I think let's stick with those two. That's probably good.
A good answer. I'm hoping to be with Olivia Dean in Manchester in a couple of weeks. I might put in a word to you. Have you seen Jamie? What's one song you wish you'd written?
Oh, there's two that come to mind. Uh, it's the Everyone Rules the World, I think is the Tears for Fears song. Everybody Rules the World. And Message in a Bottle by the Police. I mean, there's loads. Michael Jackson's catalog is just, I wish I wrote all of that. But like, if I'm talking like, I think the Tears for Fears song, Everybody Wants to Rule the World. That's the song. Everybody Wants to Rule the World. I think that's what it's called.
Incredible. For people that, Jamie, haven't heard your music, listening to this podcast, really intrigued by some of your answers and the way you're coming across. How would you describe your sound? If they were going to come see you live, what should they expect?
So, well, in terms of live, it would be different to what I would just say my catalog is. But so my band have described it as a mix of Tears for Fears, The Weeknd with a touch of jazz.
Mm. The
I would
weekend shocks me. Everything else I've got, but I wouldn't have thought the weekend.
Yeah, the Weeknd is more, when I bring the Weeknd in, it's only because of the synth sounds and the more modern style production element of my music.
Yeah.
Aside from that, especially in a live setting, it's definitely more Tears for Fears, The Killers, but it's not as heavy as The Killers. So, but I'm heading more in a direction now of your Christopher Cross and sort of like a bit of, these are big. I'm not saying I'm anywhere near these people, but trying to incorporate things from Stevie Wonder stuff in terms of harmony and whatnot. But yeah, I mean, music's a minefield, and at the moment, what I'm going through a big phase of is deciding what sound do I want to be known for, not necessarily what sound do I want to create, because I find myself being able to create so many different genres almost by accident. And I think what's great about being an artist is that when someone says your name, they can pinpoint it down to the brand of music. And so that's what I'm looking to do at the moment, is really solidify that brand.
Amazing. Yeah, I think it's really interesting for other artists to hear you say that, Jamie, because they're probably going through similar things. And it's like, do you want to be in that one box and that's it? Do you want to keep that full creative freedom where you're actually saying, no, Josh, I want to be set for this and that's that, which is yeah, it's really interesting to hear from, really. If you were in the lift and Tears for Fears walked in, you have time for one question, what would you ask them?
I'd ask them how they managed to make their song so sonically classic. And what I mean by that is how in 50 years, 100 years, people still listen to it and think this is it. And it's that classic element that makes your songs have longevity. I feel like that's why Olivia Dean has broken through so well. It's because her sound is so classic. It's always slightly Aretha Franklin, slightly 1950s, like all those bluesy jazz bands of where it's like all old vinyl recordings with the white noise in the back and all that. There's an element of that, but then it's slightly modernized. So it's
Jimmy, would you go into a recording studio for yourself thinking, I want this to be timeless, like what you're mentioning there? Or is that just something that happens completely naturally?
that's something that's happened newly. As in a lot of my music that I've released, I think some of it does have that longevity element, definitely catchy element. And I'm very proud of music I've released, but I would say that looking forward, that is my big focus, is creating music that lasts. Yeah.
What's the song you're most proud of? I was listening to Speak to You Always today. It is a fantastic tune if you've not heard it before. But what are you most proud of?
Thank you very much. I do. That's one of my favorites for sure. My first album, Everyone Still, was the one that everyone really liked.
Yeah.
I think because it was catchy, but it was also quite quite a potent song. It really like catches your ear in terms of attention. I'd say my favorite songs are Speak to You Always, Nothing to Do with It, which is the first song of my second album. And I would say those are the two that I think best represent what I'm going for
Hmm.
in the future. So
So Nothing to Do with It obviously came out late September. It's still, relatively new in terms of a release. Where do you get your inspiration for a song like that? Where are you writing this stuff? I speak to a lot of artists. They say when it's they're traveling, they're on, public transport or planes. Is it something that it naturally comes to you in that sense, or is it something that you built part by part over a long time?
so some there's this narrative of that you should, from some people, that you should go into your studio, your home studio, whatever it be, and you should just let yourself sit down and create. And I think that is good to an extent, but sometimes you almost have to manifest your creativity. And what I mean by that is, for nothing to do with it, for example, I can say this. Um, I heard a song and I used it as a reference. What I mean by that is I heard a song that I thought I really, really liked, and I thought I want to go for something like that. And so for nothing to do with it, it was a song called Sacrifice by The Weeknd. And that was my and if you now were to go listen to both of them, you could hear the sort of relation, but they also sonically sound very different. And it's not like even chord progressions and everything. It's all different. But sometimes it's that. Sometimes it's hearing a song and using that as a reference, or an element from that as a reference. I'll literally put it in my notes, and then I'll write a song using this or whatever, and then I'll get to it when I get to it. And then a lot of the time, most of my music is me just improvising on the piano and then coming up with something from there. And when I say improvising piano, I don't even mean playing my MIDI keyboard up in the studio, like my home studio, and trying to record something straight away. I mean just sitting down at my piano just saying, like, for the next step, not even, I just sit down and play something. Oh, if I come up with something nice, I'll record it, put it in an album ideas photo album, and then I will go back to it and try and record it and then create a song from that. So
I
that's
think
my
I think this is Jamie. I genuinely think this is unbelievable for musicians, young musicians, to hear this, because there is nothing wrong with that. There's only a certain amount of chords. There's only a certain amount of notes. What is wrong with going in with some inspiration and go, right? I like this part of this part of this. I'm going to put my take on it. I don't think there's any really authentic artists that can go out there and disagree with that. I mean, people. I think there'll be silly people going, "Oh, well, that's just copying." It's not at all. It's taking inspiration and making it in your own way. When you're doing that, when you're recording, when you're playing live, what's going on in your head? Like, I look at musicians, I'm always blown away. Like, are you seeing shapes, numbers? Is it muscle memory? Are you very present? Are you where you wrote the song? What's going up here when you're performing?
when I'm performing, thinking about the next lyric. No, um, to be honest, because and I think this stems from being a musician first before an artist, like being a piano player before even being a singer, and the session player is I'm listening to the band. I'm not really. I'm just listening to the band. So, for example, at the end of the gig, I'll know every single detail of everything that went on. Like any slip up that someone made, I'll remember it. Any great thing someone did, like a guitar solo or a little lick or something that someone did, I'll remember it. And that's because I'm a listener of music first, and I think everyone should be. I love listening to great music. I love my band sounding amazing, and so that's what I care for. And that's just what while I'm performing, I'm obviously listening to myself to make sure I'm in tune, but like singing wise, and I'm making sure I'm playing the right stuff. But that's what it is. It's listening to myself and the rest of the band.
Really interesting to know that. Jamie, so far in your career, have you had a teacher or role model that's really believed in you? And what impact has that had if you have?
Mm, My piano teacher was for about 5 years, from when I was 13 to 18 years old. I'm 22 now. She was very strict with me, and the reason she was so strict with me was because she knew my potential and she knew I could go into music. And bear in mind, this is before any of the artistry stuff ever was on like in my head at all. It was more just becoming a professional piano player, and which I am now. I've managed to. I think at this point I could say I am that. I'm obviously you obviously always want to work on your craft further and further, but she was the main one. And then I'd say at Berklee, I wouldn't say it was necessarily. I think the teachers believe in everyone there, so long as they work on their craft and they can appreciate them willing to learn. But I would say I had a harmony teacher who was brilliant, and who name has slipped from me. It's really bad. And a private piano teacher called John O'Caro, who was amazing and would show me with jazz standards, piano jazz standards. So things like All the Things You Are or Autumn Leaves from the American Songbook, the Reels book, and just show me every little technique that you could use on each chord and how you would make it feel horizontal or like as it flowing or swing or stride piano. Or I know these terms might go over to some people's heads, and so I'm sorry for that, but it's just all the different ways that you can play the piano.
A level of detail. And it's one thing being a great artist yourself, but being able to teach it in a way that is understood and to be mastered is absolutely incredible. You look through Berkeley's alumni, I mean, they've won hundreds of Grammy Awards. It really is incredible. And there's a lot of artists that go through and graduate from there. There's a few that attended and dropped out. But they were there. John Mayer, Charlie Puth, recent examples of that. What's a big misconception people have about Berkeley that do you think?
Well, nowadays there's a whole thing of Berkeley where if you graduate, you failed. There was this whole stigma thing. It's always been because you had John Mayer drop out, and he went on to do great things. You had Herbie Hancock, I think, dropped out. He was amazing, amazing jazz piano player. even I think Keith Jarrett was there for 6 months, who's some people, if you don't know Keith Jarrett, search Over the Rainbow by Keith Jarrett. It's the most amazing thing. But he's regarded as one of the greatest piano players ever. And so that was a thing that everyone believed in. And I think people like Lao Fei, who went to Berklee, or Charlie Puth, who graduated, they've proved that wrong now. And
Do they really make an emphasis when you're there of this is who's been here, these are attended, these are graduated, or is it something that it's just it's not mentioned all the time, but it's there, you know it's there?
yeah, exactly that. So the latter of the two. It's you just know. And they have these people come back and talk. So Charlie Puth came back and did the equivalent to like a keynote at Berklee, and he was lovely and really raw and authentic, and he's very big pro Berklee. And I was even lucky enough that he reposted a duet I did with a singer of his song.
Incredible.
Um, but
And he is a talent, isn't he? I mean, like just hearing a sound and knowing what note it is to again, it comes to the detail, doesn't it?
yeah, I mean, him, he's before, like, he makes these pop records that people obviously really take to. But from the Berklee perspective, what's so admirable about him is that he's also a jazz piano player who, like, very competent one, and he knows his harmony and he knows his music. And it's also, he's a very good vocalist. And I'm glad that he did an amazing rendition of the American national anthem at the Super Bowl that will go down as the greatest bar and sorry, Whitney Houston's and maybe even Chris Stapleton's, depending on what sort of music you like. But he showed all of America and all of the world how great a vocalist he is, in addition to everything else he's managed to achieve. So a lovely guy as well, at least from a distance.
Absolutely. I want to come back to you, Jamie, just to finish on it. What would surprise me if I was a fly on the wall during one of your recording sessions? What would surprise me most about how you work?
So I used to be very efficient, cold, get stuff done. As in, cold's the wrong word. I would just be very, very on it. Very, we get in there, not very like trying to enjoy it, just trying to get it done. I used to be like that. And I think that stemmed from getting thrown into the Berkeley environment where it's quite like, it is pressured and you're on a strain, and that's why. But what I've noticed, at least with my band now, because we become friends through the music and whatnot, I try to make it as personable as possible whilst also being really professional. So it's not the sort of thing where I'm going to be like, hey, let's get into it. I'll be like, hey, and catch up for a second and be very mindful of everyone's needs and wants in the moment, because everyone's probably had a different day leading up to the session, or day after the session, day before, whatnot. So it's trying to, yeah, make it as personable whilst also being professional.
There's people behind it, isn't there?
Yeah.
And people who experience those kind of things. Jamie, thank you so much for coming on Let's Start a Band podcast. I don't think I'm talented enough to be in one of your bands. However, there'll be a lot of people listening that's loved our conversations today. Jamie, where can they find you and what's exciting coming up for the rest of this year?
Thank you so much for having me. Where you can find me is Jamie Sidwell on all platforms, in terms of my released 2 albums, Telepathic and Speak to You Always. What to expect from me coming soon? I recorded at the end of last year with my band a live session at a studio in London where we recorded 6 of my songs in live format, and we had it professionally videoed, I should say, and had some BTS behind the scenes footage put together, and that's going to be put into a long form video on YouTube, which is going to be very cool. Check out.
Love that.
That will be over the next few weeks, a couple months, and then towards the end, looking to do a gig or two in summer in London, and then start releasing release a few singles before album 3 next year. So should be good. And then yes, Instagram for more closer updates day to day. It's at Jamie Sidwell _. That's at Jamie Sidwell _. And TikTok is at Jamie Sid _.
Incredible. For everyone listening at home, Go and check Jamie out. He's a very talented man. I'm very excited to see what you get up to in your career moving forward. Thank you so much for joining us today, mate. It's been a pleasure having you.
Thanks so much, Josh. Yeah,
Guys,
pleasure chatting.
go check it out. Get on the socials, get on Spotify. You will not be disappointed. Jamie, we'll see you next time.
Thank you very much. See you.